Okay, let's dive into this. Welcome to the Explainer. Today we're going to look at what is honestly one of the most agonizing challenges any caregiver can ever face, and that's watching your child struggle with severe anxiety. If you've been there, you know exactly what I mean, right? We know how deeply you care about your children's well-being. When they're in distress, your entire biological makeup literally screams at you to step in, to soothe them, to just fix the problem. It's a completely natural response born entirely out of pure love. But what if the very instinct that makes you such a loving parent is, inadvertently, making your child's anxiety worse? Today, we're unpacking the totally counterintuitive science of childhood anxiety, and we'll explore how changing your own behavior might actually be the ultimate key to setting your child free. I want you to hold this specific question in your mind as we go through our explainer today. Are you helping them face fear or run from it? Just think about those mornings when your child is practically in tears at the school drop-off, or maybe those nights they're absolutely terrified to sleep in their own bed. In that intense moment of distress, your immediate gut reaction is to stop their pain. But we really have to pause and ask ourselves what long-term lesson we're teaching them right then and there. Are we building up their resilience, or are we just validating their terror?
Now, if you're feeling a little guilty right now, please don't. You are in overwhelming company here. Research shows that a staggering 97% of parents with anxious kids report resorting to what clinicians call accommodations. 97%! That means almost every single parent facing this issue is doing the exact same thing, altering their own behavior or tweaking their family's routine just to shield their child from those anxiety-inducing situations. It is, by far, the most common trap in modern parenting, and simply recognizing that you're in it, well, that's the very first step to getting out. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how we've mapped this out for you. Here is our roadmap for today. 1. The parental instinct. 2. The accommodation trap. 3. Space therapy explained. 4. Overcoming school refusal. 5. Managing separation anxiety. And 6. The path forward. By the end of this explainer, you're going to walk away with some very concrete tools.
Section 1. The parental instinct. Validating the urge to protect. We have to start by validating something right out of the gate. It is incredibly painful to watch a child suffer from severe, debilitating worry. When they're trembling or crying or begging you not to leave them, it doesn't feel like some textbook psychological exercise. It feels like a genuine emergency. Your protective response is hardwired. You aren't doing this because you're weak. You're doing it because you love them intensely and you just want them to feel safe. Section 2. The accommodation trap. When rescuing reinforces the fear. But here is where we hit a real twist in our narrative. While that urge to rescue is perfectly natural, it leads us directly into what experts call the accommodation trap. We have to separate our intent, which is obviously to protect, from the actual outcome, which is often keeping our kids stuck. The very things we do to make the anxiety go away in the short term are actually the exact things fueling the anxiety in the long term. Let's look at this crucial clinical term for a second, accommodations. Basically, these are all the little and sometimes big things parents do to rescue kids from their fears. For instance, if your child is terrified of dogs, an accommodation is voluntarily crossing the street every single time you see a dog coming your way. Or if they're afraid of the dark, it's letting them sleep in your bed every single night. Now, do these actions provide temporary relief? Absolutely. The crying stops, peace is restored. But beneath the surface, the child's brain is learning a really dangerous lesson. They internalize this thought: I survived only because my parent protected me, which means that dog or that dark room truly is a dangerous threat that I just cannot handle on my own. This quote from Chu-Yuan Liu, a clinical social worker at the Child Mind Institute, perfectly hits the nail on the head. She points out, it's an instinct that you want to save your kid from a stressful situation, but you want to ask yourself whether, with the accommodation you're providing, are you helping them face their fear, or are you helping them run away from it? Pausing to ask yourself this exact question when your child's anxiety is escalating is the absolutely crucial first step to breaking the cycle. You've got to recognize when you're actually just facilitating avoidance. Section 3, Space Therapy Explained. Shifting the focus to parents. So, the crucial point is, if accommodating the child is the root of the problem, how do we actually fix it? Well, this brings us to a surprisingly effective evidence-based solution called space therapy. What's wild about this approach is that the therapist works entirely with you, the parents. The child doesn't even need to be in the room. SPACE stands for Supportive Parenting for Anxious Childhood Emotions. Because the therapist works only with you, the entire focus shifts to reducing your parental accommodations. One of the core strategies you'll learn is something called active ignoring. This means you deliberately ignore the child's anxious reactions, as long as they aren't dangerous or destructive, of course. Instead, you pour all your attention and praise onto their progress and their brave behavior. Now, a quick diplomatic warning here. When you suddenly stop accommodating, kids are probably going to push back. They might get angry, accuse you of abandoning them, or even say you don't love them. As a parent, you've got to be prepared to weather that initial storm with supportive firmness. And kids are incredibly smart, right? They will naturally seek out the parent who is most likely to cave in, the one giving the most accommodations. That's why this quote is so vital. A united front isn't just a nice to have, it's clinical glue. Consistency between caregivers is absolutely non-negotiable. Because think about it, if mom stops accommodating but dad caves, the anxiety just changes addresses. The child needs to hear it loud and clear that regardless of who they run to, the response will be the exact same steady, supportive encouragement to face their fear.
Section 4. Overcoming school refusal. Mapping symptoms and strategies.
Okay, now that we understand the framework of reducing accommodations, let's transition to applying this in the real world. And we're going to start with one of the most stressful family battlegrounds out there, the morning school routine. It really helps to know what you're looking for here, because school refusal evolves as kids grow. For younger kids, around 7 to 9, you're going to see intense morning battles and frequent trips to the school nurse. They complain of real physical symptoms, like stomach aches and headaches. But as they hit the preteen years, 10 to 12, it shifts. You start seeing chronic sleep disruption and complex social evaluation fears. Because these symptoms manifest at school, your first line of defense is how you communicate with educators. A pro tip here: share strategies and triggers with teachers, but avoid oversharing your child's entire emotional history. That can actually overwhelm the school staff and blur the clinical focus. And this brilliantly illustrates how we can use a gamified cognitive behavioral therapy strategy called the Fear Me Not approach. For a highly anxious child, just going to school is this massive, terrifying mountain. So we break it down into small, brave, rewardable steps. This is graduated exposure. Step 1, getting dressed. Step 2, riding in the car. Step 3, entering the building. Step 4, staying in the classroom. But to make this work, you must align on strategy with the school. You literally want to give the teacher a specific collaboration script. Tell them, hey, we're working on step 3 today. If he struggles at the door, please warmly guide him in, but do not call me to come back. You're asking for a consistent approach, not an exception to the rules. When you're handling school refusal, diplomacy with the school is everything. If a teacher or school counselor happens to be dismissive, saying something like, oh, they'll just grow out of it, you need to diplomatically push back by presenting your concrete step-by-step CBT plan. Show them you aren't asking them to be therapists, you're just asking them to follow a shared communication plan. And keep the boundaries at home super clear. Do maintain strict routines and don't allow occasional mental health days to become a pattern of avoidance. Also, if they are home, do not let the home environment become more entertaining than the classroom. Screens and entertainment go off. Preserving that structure is exactly what prevents the anxiety cycle from taking a permanent hold. Section 5. Managing separation anxiety. Breaking the avoidance cycle. Let's move to our second major battleground, separation anxiety. Separation is where the urge to accommodate is honestly the strongest, mostly because the child is explicitly asking for you. And just like school refusal, this looks different depending on their age. In preschoolers, 5 to 6, it's super concrete. They won't sleep alone, they have nightmares, or they ask point blank, what if you don't come back? By early school age, 7 to 9, it gets a bit more insidious. You might see morning nausea that miraculously cures itself on Saturday morning, or elaborate catastrophic worries like, what if you get into a car accident on the way to the store? Identifying these patterns is what helps you realize that the clinginess is actually rooted in deep fear, not just affection.
Navigating this requires a very steady hand. You absolutely must set clear expectations for the separation and then follow through every single time. If this is happening at school drop-off, align with the staff beforehand. Your script to the teacher should be, I will say a confident goodbye once and hand her to you. Please engage her immediately in a task. And whatever you do, do not sneak away without saying goodbye. Sneaking away totally shatters their trust and just makes them hypervigilant. On the flip side, lingering and providing excessive reassurance feeds the fear. It inadvertently signals to their brain that the situation actually is dangerous enough to warrant all this comforting. And of course, never punish the behavior. They aren't being defiant. They're genuinely terrified.
Section 6, the path forward. Taking back control. Let's move to and see how this builds into our final empowering phase. So it's time to bring all of this together and focus on the real objective we have for our kids. Whether you're modifying your own behavior at home with space therapy or building a diplomatic united front with your child's teachers, the end goal is the exact same. The ultimate goal of anxiety therapy is to give children the tools to realize that they can control their anxiety rather than the anxiety controlling them. It's all about mapping out those fears together, safely facing down the threats, and teaching them that they are absolutely capable, resilient, and brave enough to handle uncomfortable feelings.
So I want to leave you with this provocative thought as we wrap up today. Take a hard look at your own daily routines. Look at the ways you might be unintentionally shielding your child from discomfort. Ask yourself, what is the very first accommodation you can stop making today to help them build their resilience? Just pick one small thing. Start right there. Face it together. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Stay consistent, stay supportive, and keep learning. You've totally got this.